with multiplication, we need to think of it as a contraction of addition. So what does that exactly mean? Let's take the example of 3 times 4. Another way of saying that is 3 lots of 4. So you could say 4 plus 4 plus 4. They both mean exactly the same thing, and they come to the same answer, which is 12. So what happens when we move from single digit multiplication and we move to 2 digit? Let's take the example of 12 times 4. So, once you've gone past single digits, we're outside the remit of just your times tables. How do we deal with 2-digit numbers? The important thing is looking at 12. We could write this as a long string and just say 4 plus 4 plus 4, 12 times. It's a bit clunky, it's not very good. So instead, if we take number 12 and just think about it just as tens and units. What do we have? We can instead think of the number 12 as 1 10 and 12 units. So if in the same way that we said that 3 times 4 was just 4 plus 4 plus 4, let's do the same thing with 12 times 4. We instead we can say that we can break 12 down and say that's 10 lots of 4, and it's also 2 lots of 4. If we work out each individual part, so 10 lots of 4 is 40, and 2 lots of 4 is 8. If we bring them back together again, so 10 lots of 4 and 2 lots of 4 is 12 lots of 4. We can do the same with our answers. 40 plus 8 is 48. So let's take that same question, 12 times 4, and let's lay it out in a normal long multiplication format. The first step is realizing what the difference between a pivot and your target number is. This bottom number 12, we're going to split into 2 different parts. It's going to be 2, and then 1 represents a 10. So we take our pivot, which is number 2. 2 times 4 is 8. And then we move on to our next pivot, the 1. Now, really the 1 is representing a 10, so we add the 0 first. And then 1 times 4 is 4. So at this stage, you would just add the 2 together. 4 plus 8, 40 plus 8 is 48. But we can see, if we look to the side, what we've really done here is this was 2 times 4, and this was 10 times 4. So this is the important thing to realise when you're doing multiplication is what's happening at each line. You're breaking down the 12 into its tens and units. This represents the 2, so there's your 2 lots of 4. And the next line is 10, or 1 for 10, 10 times 4. Let's take a large number. 48 times by 23. So in this case, the pivot we're going to start with, the pivot's just the 3, and our target's 48. So 3 times 8 is going to give us 24. 3 times 4 is 12, plus the 2 is 14. And sort of showing the workings out for this side, what we've done is 3 times 48, which is where the 144 comes from. Now, the pivot now shifts along. Pivot now shifts this 2, but this 2 we need to remember is actually 20. And then we're going to times our pivot by our target number, so 20 times 48. You can now start to understand why you have to add the zeros every time you move down a step, because it's no longer a unit, it's a tens number. So by using the tens column, I have to add a 0. And by taking the 0, it then just becomes 2 times 48, which you can see by following the normal pattern. 2 times 8 is 16. The 1. 2 times 4 is 8, plus the 1 is 9. So if we were looking at this side, we've got 3 48s and 20 48s. If we combine the two, we have 23 48s. On the left-hand side here, just sum the parts together. Same as we did on this side to give us our question. Do the same thing here to get your answer. 4 plus 0, 4, 4 plus 6 is 10, 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Yeah, 11,004. 1,104. So I was touching upon the target and the pivot when doing this multiplication. Now, you can do things either way around here. So the conventional method, as we've just done, if we take the example of 4 times 123, start with the pivot, which is 3. 3 4s are 12. Move the pivot along to the 2. Remember, this is a 20 this represents, so I have to add 0. 2 4s are 8. Shift the pivot along again to 1, which is 100, so you add 2 zeros. 1 times 4 is 4. Sum this together gives you 492. Another way you could instead answer this question is if you reverse your pivot and your target around. If you treated 4 as the pivot and your target number was 123, you get exactly the same answer. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4. 492. So they give exactly the same answers, and you might think that, well, this is the shorter method of the two. Yes, but only by chance. Only just because you happen to put your top number as a single digit. And that's why this looks the nice way of doing it. All you've done, in principle, is over here, what you've done is 3 times 4, 20 times 4, and then 100 times 4. And you've broken it down into each of those constituent parts. Over here, however, you've just reversed the question and you've instead done 4 times 123. It's important to, if you're going, whichever method you pick, it's important to be consistent with that method. And this is where a common mistake that pops up is that people start switching between the two. Now for a single digit number times by 3 in this case doesn't make a difference. However, this makes a big deal when you start having more complicated multiplication. So to summarise, bottom number should always be your pivot. In this case, we're going to be pivoted around the number 8, 70 and 600. And the top number is going to be the target. So as a walkthrough for this question, first of all, as you said, pivot is the number 8. So I'm going to bounce between 8 and each of the digits in our target. So 8 sevens, 56, 8 fives, 40, plus 5 is 45, 8 threes are 24, plus 4 is 28. Then we move on to the next pivot, being the 7 here represents 70, remember, so 0 first, 7 sevens are 49, 7 fives are 35, plus 4 is 39, 7 threes 21, plus 3 is 24. Last pivot, 6 for 600, so we had 2 zeros on for that. 6 sevens are 42, 6 times 5 is 30, plus 4 is 34, 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 is 21. Sum the whole list, we have 6, 5 plus 9 is 14, can make 1, 9 plus 8 is 17, plus 2 is 19, plus 1 is 20, 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 4 is 10, plus 2 is 12, 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4, and then 2 at the end. Okay, so this will give you a chance to practice. So if you want to pause the video here and try this question for yourself, 124 times by 356, and afterwards I'll show you the workings out. Okay, so the workings out go as follows. So remember the bottom number is always going to be the pivot, so I'm going to start with 6 here. So 6 fours, 24. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Now the pivot shifts to the number 5, which is 5 tens, remember, so this is 50. Therefore we have the 0. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Now we shift the pivot along once more. The 3, which is representing our 300. So we have to add 2 zeros before we start. Now it's 3 times 4, which is 12. 3 times 2, which is 6, plus the 1 is 7. 3 times 1 is 3. Now we sum it all back together again. 4 plus all zeros is 4. So again here, 4. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 2 is 11. 6 plus 7 is 13, plus 1 is 14. And then 3 plus 1 is 4. That's your answer. So just to recap, the most important thing is to be consistent with the number that you're pivoting on. Bottom number in your multiplication, no matter which way around you write it, remember that multiplication is consistent. 5 times 4 is the same as 4 times 5. So it doesn't matter which order, but once you write it down, stick to that order. Bottom number is always your pivot, so we start with the furthest right hand number, 6 times 4, 6 times 2, 6 times 1. Once you've finished across the top of the row, you move your pivot along 1, and then continue the pattern.